Morella Amato joins us now, and she is Canada's first Master Cicerone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Which means you are to beer what a sommelier is to wine, is that correct?
That is correct. More specifically, what a master sommelier is to wine.
What a master sommelier, okay.
Yeah.
So you're one of 6 to hold that title in North America. So I had never heard of a Cicerone or a Master Cicerone before. What is it exactly, and how much studying does it take?
And how much beer do you have to drink to get certified?
Do you do the swish, like with wine?
The Cicerone certification, some people get confused about what I do because it's different from being a brewmaster and making beer. What I do is help with the selection, storage, and service of beer. So picking the right beer for the occasion, designing beer menus for restaurants, then making sure that it's being stored properly and served in the right way. So I'm talking about service temperature, proper glassware, that kind of thing. And of course pairing it with food, which is super fun. And more recently I've started designing beer cocktails. So it's on the other end of things, really encouraging people to discover and explore beer and teaching them how to treat it properly, because beer is actually a surprisingly delicate beverage.
That's what I was going to ask you. It used to be that beer was the least fanciest drink, right? That you would grab it cold, bottle cold from the fridge.
Yep.
While you're having nachos.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, the Cicerone exam, the Master Cicerone exam, was a 2-day exam. It was 14 hours total. I wrote 10 hours of essays, did 4 oral exams and 4 tasting exams. So,
wow.
And in order to write that, I needed to study tons more, right? So there's a lot to know about beer.
Where is the school?
There is no school. So the Cicerone organization is just a certification body. You learn what you need to learn, and then you go and you write the exam. So for me, it's really awesome because it was an outside body, you know, saying, all right, she knows something. I did it because I wanted people to know they could trust my beer knowledge. Yeah.
Wow. This is what I'm most curious about, because it says aged in whiskey barrels.
Yeah.
Why is that a big deal? And I love dark ales, and this smells wonderful, yeah.
Barrel aging is actually an upcoming trend in Ontario. We're just diving into it now. This one is by Amsterdam Brewery. They do barrel aging program and they release new beers all the time. The next one's coming out this Friday. And this is an Imperial Stout. I'm going to encourage you to, if you want to nose it.
It smells almost like
wine. You can smell. It's aged for 7 months in Jack Daniel's barrels.
Oh.
And then underneath that, it's an Imperial Stout. So I'm sure you've all heard of stouts like Guinness. Imperial Stouts are like that, but they're a lot bolder. So if you have a sip, it's 9% alcohol. You're going to get a strong chocolate coffee note with that Jack Daniel's.
It's delicious. It tastes a little bit like wine. It smells a little like wine, and it tastes a little like wine.
Well, I think that's the barrel aging, probably, the barrel aging character there. But this is not the kind of beer that you're going to drink after mowing the lawn on a summer day, right?
No,
this is a dessert beer.
I feel like there's a lot going on my palate with this beer.
I want to have this with a chocolate brownie or like a burnt toffee or something. So
a dessert beer.
Oh yeah, or on its own for dessert. I do that all the time.
So you wouldn't pair this with like a steak or maybe barbecue chicken?
Well, if you have a sip of that beer, you'll notice it's a really bold flavor. I'd be worried you couldn't taste the steak through it. With a steak, I might go more towards one of these 2 beers, although neither of them are the beer of choice for a steak, I would say. The Vienna Lager is by King Brewery. This is similar to the lagers you've probably seen around, but you'll notice it's a bit darker.
Okay.
It's got some toasted
What's the
grains.
definition of lager? I'm not the biggest beer drinker, so.
A lager depends on the yeast that was used to brew it. Basically, it means that it's a very crisp beer.
Okay, and an ale would be?
An ale is brewed with an ale yeast. It tends to be a little bit more complex, a little bit more full-bodied, but there are many lagers and many ales. They're like the 2 families of beer. But if you have a sip of that, you'll just notice sort of earthy, toasted notes. And this is a German style of beer, and in Ontario, our history is really German and British styles. So as much as we've got tons of fun new things going on in the beer industry, I think it's important not to lose sight of these highly drinkable beers. And that's a beer that is great for cheese on a side note.
Oh, and then the other one that you brought?
This is another current trend. I'm curious to see what you think of it. It's
is it gluten-free?
None of these beers are gluten-free, actually. They're all barley-based. This is Flying Monkey's Smash Bomb Atomic IPA, and it's got an American hop in it. It's got American hops, and if you smell that, you're going to get a bold citrus note.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Like there's no mistaking that. And that's just from the hops?
That's the hops. That's one of the ingredients in the beer. And along with that citrus note, you're going to get a bold bitterness. I'm going to encourage you to take a sip. It's quite delicious. But you'll notice intensity-wise, it sort of fits in between these two beers here. It's a
That stays on your palate, like it follows. You keep tasting it as it's going down.
yeah, yeah.
And it's tart. It's
It's bitter. So
bitter.
that bitterness comes from hop resins, and resins are oils, so they'll stick to your tongue. And actually, the more you sip it, the more they'll build up.
Tell me about the temperature, because back to something like this, a Guinness, I've heard that it should be at room temperature, or should it be cold? How do you serve that kind of beer?
It depends on the beer. So the lager that's on the end here, you want to have it fairly cold, around 4 degrees Celsius. I say straight out of the fridge.
Yeah.
That is a crisp beer, and it's meant to be refreshing. So
Yeah.
you want to keep it at a lower temperature. When you're getting into more complex ales like these ones here, you want to have them a little bit warmer. They say, 13 degrees Celsius, or with this one I would go even a little bit warmer, but who's going to put a thermometer in a beer? At the end of the day,
Right, yeah.
I say pull these out maybe 20 minutes out of the fridge, about 20 minutes before you're going to drink them, or, if you need your beer right away, pull the second one out, so that while you're drinking the first one, the second one gets to the right temperature. And this beer here, I would keep in my cellar. So I don't even put it in the fridge. And I don't know if you saw me earlier as we were preparing the segment, because it happened to be in my fridge this morning. I was warming it up to get it up to the right temperature, because the complex flavors come out a lot more when the beer is warmer.
Now, you were talking about glassware earlier. What would you serve these other than just regular glasses?
Is it okay to swell
Yeah.
these all out of the bottle, or do they need to breathe? Like,
Oh my
right?
goodness. Never ever drink out of the bottle.
Really?
But isn't that
Absolutely
part of the
not.
fun of drinking beer, or is that sort of an old-fashioned way of thinking about beer?
in a pinch, if you're camping in the woods, all right,
Okay.
do it. But there's 2 reasons for that. The first one is, as I'm sure you know, a lot of what we taste is informed by our nose, right? If you plug your nose, you can't taste anything. So if you're drinking straight out of the bottle,
you can't
right,
smell
you
a
don't
thing.
can't smell the
Okay.
thing. The other reason, which is just as compelling for me, is that beers tend to be a little bit more carbonated than they were meant to. Brewers will overcarbonate their beers because they're expecting you to pour it out, release some of that carbonation in the foam, and therefore you get less carbonation
Oh,
in
you'll
your
feel
tummy.
so full and bloaty.
if you drink out of
that's a
the
good
bottle,
reason.
it's a lot more bloating.
Wow.
Test it. It's true.
Who knew? There was
know.
so much to go along with beer. Morella Amato, she is Canada's first Master Cicerone. Congratulations on that, by the
Thank
way.
you.
That's
Thanks.
terrific.
Great title.
So interesting. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Yeah.